I'd like to formally wish good morning to all in Harris-Hall and those joining us online, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Lane County Board of Commissioners. I'll call it to order. It's Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. Once again, we find ourselves at the bitter end of some horrific events this week. Though it may be easier to seek peace and blame and excuses, I wanted to remind us there's still hope. So many men and women over history have made great sacrifices for this country because they believed it was worth it, and each one of us play a role in it. I read this morning, be of one mind, have compassion for one another, love as brothers, be tender-hearted, be courteous, and not returning evil for evil, but on the contrary, bless people. This is what we are called to do. Any adjustments to our agenda, Mr. Mokryski?
No.
Thank you. We have a county administration item, a time certain for a public hearing order, Resolution 251216-01, in the matter of adopting the fiscal year 25-26 budget number 2, making, reducing, and transferring appropriations. Our budget and financial planning manager, Ms. Christine Moody, is here for a bit of a summary. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Lovell, Commissioners. So as noted, this is our second supplemental for the fiscal year. We typically do 4. This one is timed with getting close to the end of our external financial audit so that we can adjust all of our fund balances to be what we actually carried forward. So every fund that has a fund balance carry forward is touched in this supplemental, so it is a little bit larger in the number of transactions occurring. Some other things that I'll point out to you, we have the LCPOA group workers labor collective bargaining agreement has been completed, and so those adjustments are in here except for in the general fund. We wait until closer in the end of the fiscal year to make adjustments to the general fund, but all of the other funds have been adjusted. We have adjustments for project timing in the Parks Levy Fund. I mentioned that one specifically because the expenditures are changing by more than 10%. That 10% threshold is what triggers the need for a public hearing. And we do have 3 funds, so the Parks Levy Fund being one of them. The other 2 are a retiree medical trust fund that we have for some internal benefit savings. There was an error in an expenditure number, so it's actually decreasing by more than 10%, just fixing an error from adoption. And the other one is a county clerk fund, and it's a very small fund. The amount of change is about $20,000, but that's enough to trigger the 10% because it's very small. We also have FTE decreasing in this supplemental by a total of 41.55 FTE. This is happening in a few areas that the board has heard about. Community health centers continue to decrease their FTE. About 15.3 is decreasing in this supplemental specifically. Lane Care within, that's the coordinated care organization within Health and Human Services, is eliminating 12 FTE. We also have the Sheriff's Office and Parole and Probation decreasing their FTE that's associated with the lack of state funding in the area of community corrections dollars and justice reinvestment funds. And then Human Services Division is reducing 2 FTE. So those are the larger ones.
And for the public, FTE is full-time employees.
Correct.
Just so we know.
Yes,
yeah, thank you.
So assuming a full-time employee. There is, I want to point out in this supplemental, because you have a order on your consent calendar today, there is some opioid funds, our settlement funds that are being received by the county, being allocated to Family Child Health, which the board has heard about, the match changes at the state level requiring the county to come up with about another $350,000 to put in, so we're recommending the opioid funds go there. And then you might remember during the community corrections justice reinvestment discussions, Parole and Probation identified that they could keep an FTE to support the drug court and mental health courts. 0.75 FTE is being funded with opioid funds. So those are contained in this supplemental, just to have those in there before we do our annual budget prep. And that is my summary.
Very good, very good. This is a public hearing on supplemental budget for the current fiscal year budget as allowed under ORS 294.471 and ORS 294.473. This is a public hearing required under ORS 294.473 due to one or more funds amending expenditures by more than 10% from the current budgeted amounts. Notice of this hearing and summary of the changes was published as detailed in the supplemental budget order and resolution included in this agenda item. Participants may now testify for or against any item contained in the supplementary budget. So I'd like to formally open the public hearing for public testimony. Do we have any public testimony on this item? Looks to appear not in Harris Hall. Online, Jessica, do we have any?
We have one person joining us online, so let's check in with that person. For those joining virtually, if you would like to give testimony during this public hearing on supplemental budget number 2, please raise your virtual hand now. I do not see a hand raised. Chair, I'll return it to you.
Great, thank you very much. So I'll now formally close the public hearing. And is there any additional comments from you, Ms. Biddy?
One additional thing I meant to mention is that the Solid Waste Fund has, as you heard with a presentation from the Public Works Director, is not structurally balanced. So that shows up in this supplemental for the first time. So I want to make sure and highlight, as our funds are changing for you, that we are adding that fund to our list of not being structurally balanced at this time. We'll report back to you again on the status of all of the funds as we start the annual budget prep.
Okay. Look forward to that this afternoon for a big, long meeting we have. Any discussion or comments from the board? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion, please.
Chair, I move to approve Order and Resolution 25-12-1601 in the matter of adopting the fiscal year 25-26 supplemental budget number 2, making, reducing, and transferring appropriations.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Buck to approve the order resolution of fiscal year 25-26 supplemental budget number 2. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. We'll see you this afternoon, Christine. As we move along, Mr. Mokreisky, is there any emergency business we need to take care of? No. Good, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And we'll move on to our public comments. We do have just a few folks, so that's good. We have full time for public comments. You'll each get 3 minutes to address, thank you, to address the board. And please do so in a civil manner, but also express your First Amendment rights. We need to hear what you have to say. You're the people who elected us, and we work for you, so we appreciate you coming this morning. First person on our public testimony roll is Dale Tronrud, followed by Timothy Woolley, please. When you come to the microphone, please state your name, and you have 3 minutes on the clock, sir. You can start whenever you're ready.
Good morning. My name is Dale Tronrud, and I live in Springfield. Unfortunately, my printer screwed up my presentation, so I'll be a little less eloquent than I hoped.
He's coming down here, Dale. Just stand by for a second. Looks like our tech guy's going to come down and help you out. I can hear the rumbling of the stairs.
I'm online? Okay, this sounds better. I'm glad we have put the flock system of cameras behind us. Chief Skinner still wants some form of license plate reading technology, and I'm sure the other law enforcement areas of the county agree.
Hang on, Dale. Let's just take a quick second here. Sorry to interrupt, sir. You're not the first technical difficulty today, Mr. Tronrud. We had the lights that didn't want to come on this morning either, so a couple of gremlins in the space today.
Microphones have always been a problem. Is it working? That sounds good. Nope, there it is. Move it further away.
There should be a motion that we have elevator music about this time.
I could hum something.
You could. I'd enjoy that, sir, actually.
The technical difficulty.
Yeah.
Part and
Moving the static on.
Oh, how is it now? Is it working? Want me closer?
Sounds good.
All right. Would it be okay if we reset the clock, please?
Everything goes wrong with my presentation.
No, it's going right. You got the clock reset. Everything's good so far, sir. All right, go ahead, please.
Chief Skinner still wants some form of license plate reading technology, and I'm sure the other law enforcement agencies in the county agree. Now is the time to think about what sort of system should be put in place and how the decision should be made. We should avoid the mistakes of the recent process used by them and approach the decision with full engagement of the public. And, clearly many residents in the county have strong opinions about the limitations that should be placed on such a system. I think most people would agree with Chief Skinner that a system that tracks stolen cars, cars belonging to individuals with arrest warrants or active investigations would have great utility. The flock system failed in the public's mind because nearly all of the data it collected was of no interest to local law enforcement, but instead tracked the movement of every resident and visitor in Lane County. Maintaining surveillance records of the general public is a bright line that the people of the United States have refused to cross. The Constitution itself, with its Fourth Amendment restrictions on the government's ability to invade the privacy of individuals, is the first sign of this belief. I've been a computer programmer for most of my life and believe that it is straightforward to write software that would notify law enforcement of the passage of a particular car of interest without recording the thousands of other cars that are of no interest to local law enforcement. Key to the public acceptance of such a system would be the trustworthiness of the police and any company that they hire to manage the system. I'm afraid that much of the public's trust has been shaken by the secrecy maintained while the Flock system was embraced. Any camera system, if operated in a limited fashion and had some level of assurance, monitoring, and trust that the design imposed the limitations to be just aimed at the people that already have an interest to law enforcement, would be key, well, here's where I'm lost my stuff, would be key to building the trust in that system. We really need to have an open, honest discussion of what is going on and not just dump this on the people as a fait accompli. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir. Timothy Woolley, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Timothy Woolley. My wife Jenny and I are residents and property owners in the East Lane District. We are seeking to replace a dwelling that has been in my family since the early 1960s. This is not a speculative project or a development proposal. It is a replacement dwelling pursued through the county's established process. The required applications were submitted on February 12, 2025. The Type 2 replacement dwelling application was deemed complete on April 23rd. On May 8th, at the insistence of county staff, we agreed to a 150-day timeline extension for the legal lot verification to be completed. The Type 2 legal lot verification was deemed complete on May 14th, and the decision was issued on July 8th. The explicit understanding was that once the legal lot verification decision was issued, the remaining process would take approximately 4 additional weeks. County staff was notified on July 8th that the legal lot verification had been approved. In an email from September 24th, a county staff member stated, "Nothing exciting to report on this one, it's just being processed." There were no referral comments. All requirements on our end were completed. No issues were raised. Despite that, here we are mid-December, more than 10 months after submission, and we are still being told the staff report is still being processed. On December 12th, we were advised that the decision might be issued mid-January, followed by another 14-day appeal period, pushing completion even further out. At this point, the ongoing delays are beginning to feel punitive rather than procedural, even though we do not believe that is the intent. These delays have also had real measurable impact. As a direct result of the delays and the extended land use process, construction costs for the replacement dwelling have increased by approximately $15,000. While we continue to wait for a decision, we also want to respectfully raise a concern that we now hesitate to even request status updates because it feels as though that may delay the process even further. That should never be the experience of someone navigating a public process in good faith. We're simply asking for reasonable accountability, clear explanation of the delays, confirmation that our application is not being deprioritized, and assurances that once a timeline is communicated, that it is adhered to. We appreciate the work the staff does, but delays of this length, after all requirements have been met, become a process and policy issue, not an individual application issue. I have also submitted an email to the Lane County Board of Commissioners email address in support of my testimony in hopes it will give clarity as to the timeline and process that we have been engaged in. Thank you for your time and for any assistance that you can provide in helping this application reach a fair and timely conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woolley. Jessica, is there anyone online waiting to public testify?
Yes, we do have someone joining us, and her hand is raised. Online, we have Tabitha Eck. And Tabitha, would you like to be on camera for your comments?
Sure.
Just one moment. It'll take just a couple minutes to process this. I'm promoting you to panelist. And we see you, and you can begin your testimony when ready.
Well, my name is Tabitha Eck. I'm the Executive Director of Mackenzie Community Land Trust. Even though I can't see your faces, I know all of your faces, and I wanted to thank you all very much as officials, elected officials, but representing the county, which for our region, of course, you are our elected officials, our elected body, and have been a huge part of the recovery of the Mackenzie River Valley. We had a chance to celebrate last week with the ribbon cutting of our Rose Street neighborhood. Heather was able to join us, as well as our partners at Dev Northwest, Oregon Housing and Community Services, as well as elected officials, the least of which was our governor. It was lovely to have her down and for her to see the work that's happening in the valley and for her to take a moment and really see what it takes for a community to rebuild itself. And that is a grand, horrible, wonderful experiment we're all navigating right now as 5 years past the Holiday Farm fires. There's so much to celebrate, but also so much to do. And I know we're not unique in small communities, rural communities impacted by fire, but that unincorporated nature of 50 miles without a government to help us, aside from you folks at the county, it's notable. And so you can see where we've struggled with the recovery, but you can also see where when a community comes together, we can truly make things happen, impossible things. And so much of the rebuilding upriver has been done by volunteers and nonprofits and special districts with volunteer boards, and it's extraordinary what people have come together to make possible upriver, and you all were a part of that. The day I believe that recovery monies came to your hands, you sent $800,000 of that to our project, the Rose Street project. It would not have happened without you folks sending those funds and supporting those efforts. And now we have 6 homes standing and ready for families in this new year. As you're going through these processes and some of these recovery efforts feel like they're forever in coming, the wheels turn slow, I would ask for you to think of us at the Community Land Trust as an opportunity, as a way to maybe help facilitate recovery in a new way, that pairing of private and public and nonprofits. And we didn't exist right after the fire. We were started by community stakeholders, locals who wanted to help the community rebuild itself. So I think a Community Land Trust might be an asset to you all as you're looking. How can we infuse these recovery monies? How can we support the community? Maybe there's a project that we can help bridge the gap for. As a land trust, whatever is for our community's benefit, we can be a part of supporting. And we appreciate your support, and the years to come, we're in it for the long haul. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for those kind words. We appreciate that very much. Is there anyone else in Harrisville wish to give public testimony? Great. Thank you all for coming out this morning. Wish you happy holidays as you continue the last couple of weeks of the year, and be safe, everyone out there. Let's move on to our consent calendar. Item number 5, all items listed here are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item would have been removed from the consent calendar and would have been considered separately. Vice Chair, I'm looking for a motion, sir.
Chair, I move to approve the consent calendar for December 16th, 2025.
Great. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Buck. I'll call for the vote for the approval of the consent calendar. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Well done, and thank you. Our county administration item number 6 is the order 25121609, a matter of delegating authority to the county administrator to execute a contract for purchase and placement of multiple, I love that word, affordable housing accessory dwelling units within the Mackenzie River Valley in the amount of $5,500,000. And with us is our exquisite and busy Disaster Recovery Manager, Mr. Matt McRae. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, Commissioners, thank you very much for the time. I know we have a fairly short agenda item, so I'm going to go through a number of slides. I'm going to go relatively quickly through the things that you're familiar with, and I'm going to stop and pause at the places where you've had questions, thank you, about this program. And then, of course, I'm going to go quickly so that we can leave time for questions afterwards. So, and then just to clarify, this is solely on the ADU program. I'm not providing a standard quarterly update today. So a little bit of background on the funds that we're using. These are community development block grant funds for disaster recovery. They come through housing, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. As I know we've all talked about, these are relatively administratively burdensome dollars. We can do a lot with them, but there's a lot of work required to make them move and to track all of the requirements that come with these dollars. The HUD announced the award to the state in November of 2021, $422 million statewide. HUD approved a statewide action plan to use those dollars in September of 2022. And then you'll recall just last year in February, or this year in 25 in February, we had a public hearing in this room to talk about the potential uses for the $17.5 million for affordable housing development. And we had proposed $5 million for ADUs, $5 million for manufactured homes, and $5 million for what we were calling cottage clusters. And so I'm coming back to you today on just that ADU piece. This is the follow-up. We received support generally for that concept, and we've done a lot of work between then and now to think through this program and what it looks like. And then you all received that almost $17.5 million from Oregon Housing and Community Services in March of 2025. So the goal here is to site approximately 20 ADUs upriver in the Holiday Farm fire affected area. The boundaries of the program are slightly outside of the Holiday Farm fire because we want to make sure that we're able to use properties that weren't affected by the fire, households that might have a little more stability, not be rebuilding. The total budget we're seeking to authorize here is $5.5 million. We've been working with the McKenzie Valley Long-Term Recovery Group, who has done outreach on this program. They've engaged a number of property owners who are interested in siting an ADU on their property. 25 have shown an interest, and so we'll have more conversation with those property owners about what the details of this program to make sure that they're prepared for this program. They've also done, the Long-Term Recovery Group have also done screening on these properties to make sure that people can get insurance, to make sure that their sites are compatible with the land use requirements, and to begin the environmental assessment process. The program would have an affordability period, so a property owner who gets one of these ADUs would be required to make sure that that ADU is rented out at an affordable rate for households at or below 80% of area median income for a period of 8 to 10 years. And importantly, and one of the questions that you all have raised is, how does this work? And the home ownership part, the part for the property owner is the unit is provided to the property owner through a forgivable loan. So they'll take on a loan that will begin as soon as the unit is ready to be occupied. It will be for the full amount of the unit and the improvements. And then if they have a 10-year forgivable loan, that loan will be forgiven by 1/10 each year until at the end of that affordability period, it then is handed over and in full property of the property owner for them to rent however they like. I think that's one of the bigger questions that you all had, so I expect there may be some questions following up on that after. So just for program criteria, we're talking about units that are 900 square foot or less as required by state law. Again, 2 acres, they have to be at 2-acre sites or more. Again, as required by state law in residential zones. The priority will be for tenants who are wildfire survivors, but then once we have met the need for wildfire survivors, these will be available to other people who are looking for affordable housing options in the area. And I mentioned that they'll be rented to lower moderate income households, and I just put the table there for reference for folks who are interested. I'm just going to call out one number. These are small units, so maybe a two-person household is most likely. A household income of $58,700 would be 80% of area median income. And then a few things about the long-term management, which I think are important. And I didn't mention this at the outset, but I will remind you all, we don't have a template to work from. There's not a program in the U.S. that has used these funds to do this kind of program. So we're doing a lot of figuring this out, which is part of the reason it's taken us a while to get here to you. But here's the way we have this set up. The property owner serves as the property manager. They'll collect rent, they'll conduct the regular maintenance and repairs, they'll be responsible for all the on-site regulars. There's a rental coordinator, in this case, the Mackenzie Community Land Trust, and they'll be promoting the available rentals. They'll be providing screening services for tenants and for property owners to make sure that the tenants meet the property owners' requirements and the property owners are a safe place for tenants to be renting from. They'll facilitate tenant selection, and they'll monitor to ensure that the program requirements are being met. And then we also have an asset manager. We're in conversations right now with a couple of different parties who have indicated a willingness to take on this role of asset manager. They will be managing the forgivable loan, and they'll manage the legal and financial transactions if a loan is paid off or if a property is sold. They'll also be ensuring that documentation is complete if a program participant is not meeting program requirements. And then Lane County is kind of the backstop here. If we have a property owner who's unable to meet the property requirements, Lane County will be the one that would take enforcement action there. And then lastly, I want to highlight all the partners who have gotten us here. It is a significant list of partners who have deep knowledge in affordable housing. And I want to call out specifically 4 individuals. Betsy Hunter with the Long-Term Recovery Group has brought her development knowledge to this project and has been essential in getting us where we are. Leah Cooper and Nora Cronin at Dev Northwest, likewise bringing their expertise to help us figure this out. And Kimberly Taylor with the Housing Development Center has been instrumental in helping us think about the asset management role. And then lastly, I'd like to thank you as a board for encouraging us to step into a bit of an unknown with this program. The organizational encouragement to take risks is really important, and I'd also like to acknowledge Steve Mokrahysky for the same. His willingness to encourage us to try new things is the only reason we're here in front of you today. That's the end of my comments. Thank you, Chair.
Well done, Mr. McCray. Thank you very much. To the board, any questions or comments for Mr. McCray? Yes, Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. No questions. I appreciate what's being presented. I want to appreciate we have partners in the audience here with us today. This is actually a pretty exciting opportunity. As Mr. McCray had mentioned, ADU development for recovery with funding from the federal and state government is new. But we have that opportunity to do that here, and we know that that increases housing in areas that otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity. So I'm fully supportive and excited to be able to utilize our new ADU availability in the county to do this.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Trigger.
Sure. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you. And I see other folks here from Upriver in the room. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tabitha, for your remarks this morning. This is a really important moment to be at. I'll just amplify what Commissioner Buck said, that it's exciting to be able to use. I will take this and every opportunity to express my frustration with the restrictions at the state legislative level, that the parcel must be 2 acres. That feels overly generous, in my opinion, to in the face of the housing shortage that we face and the evident willingness. You've got 25 property owners in a very small community ready to step up, so that's clearly showing us that this is a solution that people are ready to offer up. So just taking the opportunity to state that. The post-loan forgiveness time around tenancy, when you said it will basically remove the restrictions, I assume that's the income eligibility restrictions. Are there others, like could they be used for short-term rentals later, or is that not going to be allowable ever? What are those restrictions that will be lifted after the loan forgiveness period?
Yeah, Chair Lovell and Commissioner Trigger, thank you for the question. My understanding is that it's a state requirement that ADUs cannot be used for short-term rentals, so I don't think that will be lifted. But all the program requirements associated with this program, any obligations to pay off a loan and the affordability requirements, all of those will go away at that time.
Terrific, thank you. And I assume the DR portion of the funds from the feds is separate and therefore is fairly shielded from some of the other changes that we're seeing out of the federal government around uses of CDBG dollars for building homes and who can live in them. I think the DR funds are segregated enough that we're not concerned about
That's a great
that changing
question.
later?
Great question, Commissioner Trigger. Yes, our experience so far is that these disaster recovery funds, because they're one-time allocations directly from Congress, so that they have been less susceptible to being clawed back by the federal government at this point. Though we're trying to make sure that we're setting things up so that we're not putting too much county resource at risk should we experience that. But it's still, it's federal funds that is they're still, at risk at some level.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, and thank you again for all your hard work and all the relationships you're building upriver. And I know it's just tremendously challenging work every time we hear anything about the recovery efforts because it's so multifaceted. It's always good to see such great progress, especially in this. This is really significant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair Lovell. And we're pushing this well past the 10 minutes that we estimated, but it's a worthwhile subject to discuss. Moving forward with ADUs is a huge step in so many different ways. I agree with the Commissioner Trigger's sentiment that it's unfortunate that there are restrictions placed upon it by the state through the legislature that make it more difficult to add front doors, and that's what we're all about. That's not what we're all about, but it's one of our main focuses. This is an opportunity to add front doors in places where they're dreadfully needed. But I view it as a step. I view it as a precedent that we need to scrutinize as we roll this out, because we need to do things like this in non-emergency situations in many places throughout the county and throughout the state. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to allow the dense urban growth that's required in Oregon inside of urban growth boundaries. If we don't allow a reasonable number of houses and front doors outside of urban growth boundaries, we constrict the use of land inside of urban growth boundaries for denser growth. This is one step, a huge step, and thank you for your work and everybody, all the work that's gone into it, but we need to scrutinize it as it goes forward, because this is something we need to whip. We need to make sure that people see how good of an effort this is, how well we do with it, and how we need to use this as a template of sorts down the road for more ADUs outside of urban growth boundaries. Thank you.
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Just real quick, thanks, Mr. McCray. It's greatly appreciated, and we know you get tasked with go do this, now figure out how to do it, and you always do it with great willingness to learn new. So appreciate it, and these are the kind of things that you get very excited about, real solutions and more front doors. That's what we need. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Great team you assembled, too. You said you didn't have all the boxes checked and you didn't know. Well, you asked people who do know, and then you figure it out along the way. My mentor used to say, jump off the cliff and build wings on the way down until you fly. So good job flying, Matt. I just have just a couple of statements for the public. This is about $220,000 each for 25 people if they all apply, which basically, if you're building a 900 square foot house, that's about $245 a square foot. That is a generous amount. I mean, it's not going to close the gap entirely, but it's 90% there. So I think this is a really great program to have instigated in the area where we need housing the most, and it actually helps people build it instead of burdening them with a great deal of expenses to try to do that. Just two quick questions. It's transferable to a new owner, I would assume. If the house gets sold, it transfers. We've talked about that. And let's say, for example, things change and a loved one needs to be housed or medically suited on the property, then would any balance of the loan then be negotiated by us to be paid back if they decided to opt out of the program and use it for a loved one?
That's a good question, Chair Lovell. There would be two options there. Yes, they could just buy out the remainder of the loan, and then the program is done, their obligations to the program are finished. Or they could rent to that person for a period of time and then pick up, once that person is no longer there, they could pick up, renting at an affordable rate for the remainder of that term. Assuming that was a short-term rental. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Chair? Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right, super. I'm looking for a motion on this item, Vice Chair. Oh, one more question, Commissioner Buck. Go ahead,
No,
please.
if you don't
Oh.
mind, I'd love to make a motion.
Make the motion, please.
All right. I would move to approve Order 25-12-16-09 in the matter of delegating authority to the county administrator to execute a contract for purchase and placement of multiple affordable accessory dwelling units within the McKenzie River Valley up to the amount of $5.5 million.
Great.
I will second.
Second by Commissioner Farr. It was moved by Commissioner Buck and seconded by Commissioner Farr to delegate the authority of the county administrator to execute the contract for purchase and placement of multiple affordable accessory dwelling units up the Mackenzie River Valley in the amount not to exceed $5,500,000. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Well done, sir. You deserve an
Thank you, Chair.
applause. Good job.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Our number 7 item is our Public Works item. This is the 5th reading and deliberations of ordinance 2507. Is there a request from any commissioner to read the ordinance in full? If not, I'll read it by title only. Title is extensive, so bear with me. 5th reading for ordinance 2507 in the matter of amending Lane Code Chapter 16 to adopt clear and objective standards for housing in residential areas in section 16.090 definitions, 16.237 significant natural shorelands combining zone, 16.238 prime wildlife shorelands combining zone, 16.239 natural resource conservation combining zone, 16.240 residential development shorelands combining zone, 16.241 shorelands mixed development combining zone, 16.242 dredge material mitigation site combining zone, 16.243 beaches and dunes combining zone, 16.253 stream and riparian regulations rural comprehensive metro plan, and 16.254 greenway development permit rural comprehensive plan as required by Oregon Revised Statute 197A.400, updating preferences in other sections of Lane Code and adopting a savings and severability clause and declaring an emergency per file number 509-PA25-05301.
Chair Lovell,
Yes, please.
I'm not prepared to pass this ordinance today. I don't think it comes as a surprise to anybody. It's a good ordinance. It has exquisite intent. It's going to be far-reaching once we do pass this ordinance. And I don't want the ordinance to die, and I don't want it to go away. But your recitation, Chair, speaks to the complexity of the ordinance. There's a complexity that we need to further evaluate and further move through. I'd originally thought about tabling the discussion, tabling the ordinance, but that kills it. It can't come back, and this shouldn't be killed. A lot of work has gone into this, a lot of really good work. And staff members have taken time to meet with me privately, individually, and explain a lot of the elements that pertain to the complexity of the ordinance. I don't want the ordinance to die. So I considered the motion to table. I've rejected that because I don't want this ordinance to die. So I'm using as my guide on this an article and an opinion by Professor Larry Larmer from Wisconsin-Madison, a wonderful institution, who speaks authoritatively on this matter. So I'm moving to postpone this item to a time certain, March 17, 2026. This is a debatable motion. Should it have a second?
March, what did you say the date was, Commissioner?
March 17th, which
2026.
2026.
Okay, thank you.
That's scheduled to be a Board of Commissioners meeting on that date. That may change due to in that schedule has not been absolutely published yet. But if I have a second, that motion is debatable.
Is there a second to the motion Commissioner Farr puts on the floor?
I would like to hear more about this. I will second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Farr and seconded by Vice Chair to postpone the ordinance that before us, 2507, to a date March 17th, 2026. Is there any discussion to the motions?
I'll give a brief, deeper description then.
Please proceed.
The date certain gives time to explore some of the complexities, some of the questions that have arisen during separate meetings that staff has had with what we have called a stakeholder group. But it goes far beyond that. Once again, staff is very competent. Staff's done marvelous, exquisite work bringing this forward. My hesitation is the complexity of the motion. This is an ordinance that will be around for a long, long time. We're still living with decisions that we made in 1984 regarding land use. This is a land use ordinance that will be around for a long time, and potentially people generations from now, as we are from 1984, will be talking about it. Consequently, taking a little bit more time to address some of the complexities of it that are in question, both in my mind and in others' minds, I think it's a prudent thing to do. It also allows staff to not dwell on it for the time being, to work on other things that I know are priorities for staff to work on between now and March 17th. So it's an opportunity for the staff to say, good, I hope, we can work on something else for a while. And then by March 17th, the ordinance could be, in a word, riper and more ready to go for the generations to come who would be following this ordinance and following the many intricacies inside of the ordinance. Now, another option we have is to pass the ordinance and to revise it. Future boards to revise it, or we revise it. That's a difficult process, and that's not a process that I'm in favor of. That's why I've made this motion to postpone the item to time certain. And if and I use as my authority a professor from Wisconsin. We also have a parliamentarian among us, which is our counsel, Rob Bodad.
Thank you for the explanation, Commissioner. Any other further discussion? Commissioner Trieger.
Well, I think that was an invitation for sort of a point of order. Was it about proceedings? Are you checking with council before I weigh in on the motion on the table?
If council has anything to say, I think I've very
we are
enough.
yeah.
I would just confirm Commissioner Farr's explanation. This is instead of a motion to table, this is a motion to postpone to a certain date. And essentially that would be a potential sixth reading and deliberation of this ordinance, just like you've moved it in the past. So it, in some ways, is no different than what you've done previously. It's a motion to postpone. And it is debatable.
And it is in the proper order of the proceedings, given the script, to make the motion now and act on the motion now rather than.
I'm trying to remember what else is in the script. I think we've already read it by title alone. There was no request to read it in full. Yes, then I think.
No declarations have been made yet, and we haven't had a staff presentation. That's
No, there would be time for declarations at the next sixth reading. Should you want to make those, we can go through all of those rituals then at that time.
So then I have one other procedural question is what is well, I guess the motion to postpone would be the same as making a motion to have a sixth reading, because the postponement essentially just is a sixth reading, but it's not for another almost 4 months.
That is correct.
3.5 or whatever. Got it. Well, then I am prepared to speak to the motion if.
You are prepared to speak to the motion. Please proceed.
Not in support of the motion, only in that this is a legislative code amendment that we are required to enact per state legislature, actions of the state legislature. It is unclear to me. I know Commissioner Farr has met with staff. I've met with staff. I've read the materials. Sort of leaving this motion or this amendment in suspended animation doesn't advance any changes to it. We all agree, and Commissioner Farr stated in the making of his motion that we want our staff to be able to do the many, many other pieces of work that are on their plate. And the best way to do that is to pass this this ordinance, get the code amendment in place, and let whatever third parties have opinions about it work through the process at that time, if in fact they have any opinions about it as it is implemented. I think for us to just endlessly delay does a disservice to our staff. It does a disservice to the public. There is no, that I can see, legitimate reason. We've allowed third parties ample extra opportunity outside of an established process for all other ordinances that we adopt to weigh in. They are clearly still unhappy. Let them express their dissatisfaction through an appeal process if that's what's necessary. But an endless delay on this is mystifying and unproductive, and I'm not in support, and I'm prepared to call the question and vote on the ordinance as it's presented. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Question's been called. Is there a second?
Any other discussion? Commissioner Buck, please.
I actually have a question for County Council, which is.
I meant on the ordinance.
Is there liability exposure for us for postponing this till March?
Chair Laval, Commissioner Buck, depends on your definition of liability exposure, which I generally don't tend to talk about in open public meetings, but there are, let me just put it this way, there was a deadline on getting this ordinance in place of July 1 of last year. There are processes in the land use codes whereby people can potentially attempt to force that. I can get into more details if you'd like, but I don't think my role here is to guide people who are wanting to file an action. If you can read between the lines there. I can be more explicit if you'd like.
I am curious. I don't want to place the county in a precarious position, but I would like more detail.
Sure. So as the board may be aware, I was the land use lawyer for Washington County, who, for better or worse, became the test case for the implementation of clear and objective standards by way of ordinances, and engaged in years of litigation over enacting ordinances. So the mechanism in state law that I was trying to be a little obtuse about is what's called an enforcement order proceeding, the Land Conservation and Development Commission. So somebody theoretically could file a petition with LCDC to compel the county to enact an ordinance to get into compliance with the law that went into effect July 1 of actually this year, and potentially could seek a stay on any development in the areas subject to that potential ordinance until we had an ordinance in place. And that happened twice in Washington County. So I have kind of direct experience with this issue. If that's enough information, hopefully.
That's very helpful. Thank you. I think out of caution for that particular circumstance, I don't personally need the extra time, so I won't be supportive moving forward, but it is the will of the board.
Commissioner Farr?
I don't wish to beat this any further, but I've reviewed the moratorium that happened in Washington County, and it's not really very much like this. Regarding the action taken by the legislature, it doesn't require, the opinion is that it doesn't require an ordinance. It just requires that counties and municipalities use clear and objective standards. An ordinance is something that we have to take very, very seriously, particularly one that's going to be as far-reaching as this one. Therefore, a 3-month delay is not inordinate. We heard from Mr. Woolley this morning about a 6-month delay in just getting a house built. Now, that's a different issue, but time seems to be of no consequence sometimes, but sometimes time is of every consequence. At this point in time, I believe a 3-month delay in discussing this gives us a chance to make a more perfect ordinance that will be better used, less challenged, and will last for years to come. Maybe not 39 years. It's not since 1984, but I've been cautioned that if we review things, we may have to go back to 1984 and review things that we did then. Well, let's do something that we don't, that people will not have questions regarding down the road, and 3 months is not an inordinate amount of time to wait to work on this ordinance.
Vice Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll support my second and delaying this till March 17th, 2026, because I also still have some questions about it as far as the clear and objective. Can certain things be clear and objective? Can we remove certain things? And I think we can get more descriptive in this ordinance with some of that stuff. So I will support it.
Thank you. A lot of good compelling reasons from the board. My leaning is also to delay this until March 17th. And that's really, I'm not going to add any more to that because I don't think I can add any more to what's already been said. Commissioner Farr, please.
Well, there are a number of things that can happen between now and then. One thing I'm going to be discussing with the rural fire departments, because the driveways from the access point to the public or local access road, the driveway is typically passed by the rural fire department. I've not spoken to them. They've not made presentations to us yet. It's all a part of how we regard the completeness of this ordinance. I need to talk to the rural fire departments. I don't think anybody here has, but I have it on authority from somebody I trust that they're the ones that make decisions on driveways in rural Lane County. So that's one part of my further research, just one part of my further research.
Please, go ahead,
Thank
Commissioner
you.
Trigger.
Clarifying question, because I heard Commissioner Farr say he wants to just let it sit and ripen, and then I hear it's a chance for staff to do more work, but I also hear Commissioner Farr saying, I'm not clear what is supposed to happen between now and March for this to come back.
I didn't say sit and let it ripen. I said it may become more ripe. But what I'm saying is that, that some of the questions that I have and others may have, I can only speak for me, can be answered between now and then.
All right, there's no further discussion on the floor. We have a motion to postpone ordinance 2507 to a date certain, March 17th, 2026, for a sixth reading and deliberation. We've had discussions of the motion, so I'll call for the vote on this motion. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2. We will postpone ordinance 2507 to a date certain, March 17th, 2026. Staff, thank you so much for your presence and your attention to this matter. We will see you soon. Our next item on our agenda is our 8th item, our county council item, order 25121610, in the matter of approving a contract between Lane County, Emerald Peoples Utility District, EPUD, and WAGA Energy related to replacing the current gas collection and electric generation facility at Short Mountain Landfill with newer technology to clean and capture those gases. And with us is our Chief County Counsel, Mr. Rob Bovet, and our Director of Public Works, Mr. Dan Hurley. Mr. Bovet, I believe this is your item, so go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. As you may recall, last week we had an extensive discussion about this, and we've been talking about this particular project for quite some time now through confidential memos and other things during negotiations. I really don't have anything further to present than what I presented last week. I know the commission had certain questions related to the next matter in terms of the economics, but unless you have questions for the Public Works Director or I, really it's up for your decision as to whether you want to engage in this three-way project, this public-private partnership with People's Utility District, EPUD, and WAGA Energy. I think we've struck the deal that the board authorized me to negotiate. I know there's a lot of paper to look at, a lot of details that 6 lawyers and the Public Works Director and various staff have negotiated, and interested to hear if you have any further questions about this project. If you approve, I'll let the other parties know. I think EPUD is planning to take this up this afternoon. WAG has already approved it last Friday. So does the board have any questions for Dan or I?
To the board? Commissioner Trigger.
Just appreciation for all the hard work. It's been a long time getting here, and I think as all of us have expressed in numerous conversations, our commitment as a board, as a public body, to work as best we can with the other public entity involved for the best possible outcome for their ratepayers, as well as for this organization and the people all of us collectively serve. So thank you for working through it. It's exciting to be at this moment. Thank you.
As expressed in the public meeting we had last week, triple win. This is a good job. And then all those 6 lawyers getting together, like I said before, it sounded like a joke lead line. But it was stimulating reading. Thanks for your thoroughness and all the thoroughness of your colleagues that you so worked well with. If there is no comments or questions for Mr. Bovet, I'm looking for a motion on this item.
Chair, I move to approve Order 25121610 in the matter of approving a contract between Lane County, Emerald Peoples Utility District, and WAGA Energy related to replacing the current gas collection and electric generation facility at Short Mountain Landfill with newer technology to capture and clean those gases.
And a second.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Buck to approve the proposed order entitling the matter of approving a contract between Lane County and EPUD, Emerald Peoples Utility District, and WAGA Energy related to replacing current gas collection and electric generation facility at Short Mountain Landfill. Any discussion to the motion? Yes, Vice Chair.
Yeah, I just want to take a second to thank you, Rob, for the ground you gained on this project. When we first heard about it, this seemed like a long distance and was never going to happen. And I like to see that, to see how far you narrowed that gap and to come to a three-way win. That's very impressive. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Vice Chair. All right. Oh, Commissioner Buck, please.
I just want to give, excuse me, I just want to give a thank you to EPUD and WAGA for all their goodwill in the negotiations and working together on something that I think will benefit all the parties involved.
Commissioner Farr.
Just more chimes in the same peal. The good work on this. Renewable natural gas is essential. We just converted our waste methane at Metropolitan Wastewater Management to renewable natural gas. It's a far smaller amount than we're going to generate out of Short Mountain, a relatively large amount, and it allows us to do things that 5 years ago we didn't even dream possible. Good work, everybody. Excellent teamwork. Thank you.
All right, looks like we're ready for a vote on this motion. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of this motion that we have forth between us, signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Good deal. One off the chart there, Mr. Bovet. We'll move on to the next item, our 8B item, which is the facilitating the possible siting of Clean Lane facility at Short Mountain Landfill. So please, you and Mr. Hurley, go ahead.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. I actually, since your meeting last week, I broke this potential action item into two separate decision points because there are separate justifications for one that that individual board members may like or dislike at your pleasure. But I basically did that because of the feedback that I heard from the board last time. So there are two potential action items, and I would ask Public Works Director to chime in when I talk about the budget in relation to both of those items. But the first item really would allow for the county to pay for what I called the delta last week, the difference between WAGA installing a 2-inch gas line on their own through their own easements they purchase and installing a 4-inch gas line installed by Northwest Natural, which potentially could do two things. That delta is about $3.8 million, and it would allow two things. One, it would allow not just connecting to the WAGA box, which you just authorized, but would also have potentially a port for Clean Lane, should Clean Lane be sited at Short Mountain. That's one potential advantage of item 8B1. The other potential advantage of item 8B1, which is completely separate and a separate justification for it, potentially, depending on the board's view, is that if we go with that route and have Northwest Natural use their eminent domain powers and essentially dig a utility trench, they will allow us to install a leachate line at our own expense in that same trench, thereby saving the county potentially saving the county some revenues that it would otherwise possibly have to expend if it wanted to install its own leachate line in its own trench. So I crafted or proposed order 2512-1611 to reflect either of those justifications, or for maybe some of you, you like both of those justifications. So that would be the first potential action item. The second potential action item is to approve a contract amendment to our existing contract with BHS for the Clean Lane project that would authorize engineering necessary to potentially put Clean Lane at the Short Mountain landfill. I basically have explored that possibility, as I explained last week, and have run into the point. I'm now at the point where we actually need to expend real dollars if we're going to continue to explore that possibility. So that's roughly 1.2 million and change, and I've crafted an order that would authorize that amendment to the BHS contract so we can continue to explore siting Clean Lane at Short Mountain. And originally I had crafted those both as the same order, but recognized after our discussions last week that really those are two separate action items with potentially two separate justifications, depending on the board's perspective. I don't really have any further explanation of those items than what I provided to you last week and then just now. However, I know the board did have some questions, and that's why I've asked the Public Works Director to be here about, well, how are we going to pay for these things? If you still have those questions, the Public Works Director is here to answer those and further describe those. I think there was also a question about, well, what would it cost us if we actually wanted to do our own leachate line and pay for it outright on our own? And I think Dan is prepared to answer that as well, should the board be interested in those questions being answered. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on either of these two proposed action items if you have any further questions for me. And with that, I'll turn it back to the chair and or potentially the Public Works Director.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Bovet. So before us, we have two orders that we're going to be juggling. So there's a subject matter on both ends. So be clear, I would, if you would, for the public to know which item you're speaking about, if you have items that bridge over both of those. So right now, we're looking at the larger gas line question. Is there any discussion or questions for Mr. Bovet or Mr. Hurley at this time? Yes, Commissioner Farr.
Just something that I talk about very often, and that is the co-location. I don't talk about the co-location, but the leachate line from Short Mountain, something that we've needed for decades. I talk often about the millions and millions of gallons of hazardous waste that we transport with a huge carbon footprint up I-5 on a daily basis. Not millions on a daily basis, but the cumulative amount is millions of gallons. This should have been done back in my first term as a Eugene City Councilor, before Betty Taylor was a Eugene City Councilor. And it wasn't. We delayed it. Sometimes delays are good, sometimes delays are very expensive and very negative. In this case, decades of delay in getting this leachate line in has caused us all kinds of issues in terms of carbon footprint, in terms of hazard to the public, in transporting semi-truckloads, tanker loads up and down to the tune of, what, 12 a day, more on rainy days, semi-truckloads of this stuff. Anyway, that's a discussion. So I'm in favor of this, and I think it's wonderful work co-locating. The opportunity to potentially co-locate in the same trench, I think, is a wonderful concept. One that I think, did you come up with that, Rob? Don't answer that, but I'm going to give you the credit for it. So thank you very much. I'm ready to move forward with this.
Yes, Commissioner Buck.
I appreciate those sentiments. I think item 8B1 also advances our progress towards potential work with the city of Cresswell that Commissioner Farr and I have been working pretty hard on. It doesn't connect Cresswell as specifically, but us advancing the leachate line in order to eventually get there and connect Cresswell up to the NWMC is all a win. So I'm absolutely supportive of this order as well.
Commissioner Trieger.
Thank you. I will also speak to 8B1. Really what this is creating opportunity, right? And it's also improving safety because, as Commissioner Farr mentioned, the semi-truckloads, that's our drivers that are on the road. We know one of the most dangerous things a person can do is get behind the wheel of a vehicle and get on the road. And we're talking about a cost, but we're not talking about the savings over time of not having to pay the wear and tear and maintenance on those rigs, the work that goes into loading, driving, and unloading, et cetera. So we're really only talking about one part of an equation, which is cost, but there's savings to be had here over time, as well as greater efficiency and safety improvements, and again, opportunity, as Commissioner Buck mentioned, to be part of supporting expanded infrastructure that ultimately can lead to housing in some of our smaller communities. So I'm fully supportive of item 8B1. Thank you.
Just an item of levity, Chair.
Commissioner Farr.
If you go to Austin Stadium on Saturday evening, you'll find upward of 40,000 people giving a symbol for a 4-inch leachate line.
That's funny. Good observation. I do have a little struggle with this. I am in total support of a leachate line. I think that should have been our focus from day one. I agree with Commissioner Farr. It is a project that is definitely hindering economic development in our neighboring communities, and I'm all for the leachate line. I'm concerned that it's joined with a gas line that is leaning expenses and putting money into the ground on potentially citing our next topic of discussion, the Clean Lane project on Short Mountain. And so I'm wondering, for the public to understand fully what this is, what's the cost, Mr. Hurley, that you've developed for the leachate line, if we just did that only?
Thank you, Chair. For the leachate line, it's about a $6 million expense. Those are in 2023 dollars estimated when we were scoping the entire regional expansion into Goshen wastewater project. So it's a $6 million estimate there. This section would get us a little more than half of the length of that estimated travel. So it would get us to the north side, so from Goshen to the north side of Short Mountain Landfill. The leachate is actually collected on the south side of the landfill, so there's about another mile of pipe that will need to be constructed when we go to connect the full system there. But there's still a savings here. So this cost for the item before you is a $3.8 million ask. We've spoken with our landfill engineer who actually did the engineering for the Dry Creek landfill down by Medford, has a leachate pipeline. So he did that engineering estimate for them and estimated up to about $1 million to add in our pipe to that. So that gets us to about 4.8. And then for that additional mile, we're talking about another $500,000 on top of that. So that gets us to 5.3. So that's still a savings rather than billing this separately as a $6 million, which is probably more closer to 7 since it's 2023 dollars. So there's a savings here. And then as Commissioner Traeger mentions, there's also a savings for not having to truck. And that savings is about $500,000 a year.
So then we're talking, with the public knows, it's kind of getting confusing even in my mind to kind of keep these separately. If we're digging a trench for the project for WAGA, they're going to put the 2-inch line in there. We're asking the public to authorize us to put a 4-inch gas line for the hope that we're going to connect possibly the Clean Lane site anaerobic digestion system to that. And while we have everything open in the trucks and everybody's working there, we want to put a leachate line in there. So each particular item has a cost. So as I understand you, Mr. Hurley, you said that the south side leachate line all in total is about $5.3 million. Did I hear that correctly?
To construct the full line using the trench for the gas line.
Right. So we'll save obviously the trench costs and that sort of thing. But then if we decide to just put the leachate line in at the time that trench is open, but not put the extra helping of gas line in there, isn't the gas line portion of that like 1.3 million or something like that? Mr. Bovet, please help me out.
So yeah, so if I could help. The 2-inch line would actually be a WAGA line.
Right.
It wouldn't be done by Northwest Natural. It would be using their own easements across private property. They have not offered, and I don't think it would actually work for us to piggyback onto that. We're able to piggyback with Northwest Natural because they'll be doing a bigger trench with a 4-inch line, and it'll be a public trench essentially. So we'll be sharing their capacity. So we don't really have the option to piggyback on a 2-inch line. If you reject this order, then WAGA will do their own 2-inch line, and we won't do the leachate line. We could do the leachate line separately, if that makes sense. Did that help explain, or that more?
The fog is clearing, and I want to make sure the public understands what we're spending money on and what portions we're spending money on, because even I'm having a hard time figuring out where it's all going. So as I understand it, the 2-inch line, if we do nothing, WAGA puts that in at their own expense. Great. If we decide to do something, we then expend $1.3 million to add an extra line, a larger gas line, in hopes that we're going to site the Clean Lane facility there to join it.
Except for 3.8, not 1.3.
3.8, all right, so $3.8 million, okay, in the hopes that we're going to site the Clean Lane project there. So if we look at what we're seriously addressing, and that's really, in my opinion, top priority, the leachate problem, and we set aside this idea that we're going to put the Clean Lane project there, because we don't know yet. We haven't been through LUBA. We don't know what we're doing right now. And I think maybe we're getting this decision ahead of the horse here a little bit. So we want to ask the public to approve us for putting a leachate line in, which I think is a good idea. I'm fully supportive of that. I'm not in support of joining these two together where we're speculating that we're going to put an extra gas line in there for maybe siting the Clean Lane project on that site that we don't know yet. There's still a lot of unknowns out there that I think this is too far forward of having us decide on these things when we don't really know, A, it's a lot of cost, I don't know where it's coming from, and B, for my mind, when is our drop deadline date for us to decide if we approve this today, a speculative gas line that we don't know if we're going to site this big facility on, that we don't need it? Or is it too late that we put it in and we decide there's problems at Short Mountain and we can't put Clean Lane in, then we've buried $3.8 million in the ground? That's my concern.
Yeah, I'll address the second part of that, but not the budget piece. I'll defer that to the Public Works Director. So really, as implied by Commissioner Farr, this was, to be honest, an opportunity that I saw. It was an opportunity to get a leachate line in the ground at a lower expense than $6 million. Now, the only way I can get that opportunity is by having Northwest Natural install a 4-inch line, irrespective of whether or not Clean Lane hooks up to it at some point in the future. So that's why I crafted the order the way I did it, because theoretically, if you had a county commissioner that was opposed to Clean Lane, opposed to moving it to Short Mountain, but still wanted to do a leachate line now with a less cost, because it's an opportunity, then to me, that would be an independent justification for supporting the first order. But if you didn't want to do that now, you wanted to kick the can down the road on a potential leachate line, we can certainly do that at a later time at our own expense for $6 million or whatever the current price would be for that. So I want to be clear that in many ways I did see this as an opportunity to do a leachate line for less money if we chose this option, irrespective of whether you hook Clean Lane into that line at some future point. That's why I broke out the order, because the second order really is what will tell me, to be honest, whether or not this board wants me to continue to pursue moving Clean Lane to Short Mountain. It's not really the first order, because the first order could be justified on either of those two justifications. That makes sense.
Mr. Hurley, go ahead, please.
I could add a piece. The reason why Northwest Natural can build this section cheaper than we can is a lot of the expense is for the easements, and particularly the crossing under Interstate 5. That's a huge permitting nightmare and trying to get the easements, but as a utility, they have powers of eminent domain and can get that done easier than we can. So that's why this section of the leachate line can be constructed with the savings there. And then, so we'll have more than half of the line built, then it'll be another about $500,000 to connect it to where the leachate originates at the landfill.
So if we don't site Clean Lane at Short Mountain, what's the benefit of the county putting a 4-inch line in partnership with Northwest Natural in the ground if that's not going to be used for it?
The leachate line.
Okay, this sounds like me going to a sale with my wife on shoes, where I'm saving so much money because I bought 6 pairs of shoes. What I'm trying to understand for the public is, yeah, we have this opportunity to put a 4-inch line in and put the leachate line. I get the savings in that, but what I'm not hearing is, if we don't site Clean Lane at Short Mountain, what's the purpose of the 4-inch line that we supposedly saved on by putting the leachate line in there if we're not using the 4-inch line for the gas extraction for Clean Lane? What purpose does the line serve if we don't site Short Mountain to Clean Lane?
Well, it would serve just the WAGA facility.
So that would upgrade WAGA's facility from their original 2-inch to a 4-inch.
Right.
Is that something that they deem necessary for the economical and affordability access to that? I mean, 4-inch line seems overkill to me.
No, I don't think it would be of any advantage to them. I don't want to speak for WAGA, but if you look at the contract that I negotiated with WAGA and EPUD, it has both, it has this opportunity built into it, but it also has the alternate pathway. So really, I don't want to, again, speak for them. I think WAGA is happy to install a 2-inch line at its own expense or plug into the 4-inch line that Northwest Natural installs. Either one is good for them. To me, and the reason I brought this forward to the board is if you do the 4-inch line, we can also do the leachate line. Even if a second project doesn't or even never connects to the 4-inch line.
So, but then we still have the expense of the 4-inch line on top of the expense of the leachate line, so are we really saving money?
Well,
And I'd like to know how much. I mean, according to the first estimate, it was 6 million, and then Mr. Hurley talked up to 5.3, so we're saving $600,000. Is that what we're talking about?
I think that's what we're talking about, plus $500,000 of savings and having, you don't have to do the trucking anymore,
A year.
a year.
So then that would pay itself off in 12 years, give or take.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, but like I say, this is, to me, this is an opportunity that just happened to materialize, and I was thinking leachate line, and they're digging a public trench with eminent domain powers, and like, you don't have to do a leachate line at all right now.
Well, that's what I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand what the value of the public is for us to spend this kind of money. And my other question is, where's the money coming from? Are we bonding it? Is it coming from Public Works reserves? Where's the public tax dollars coming from this? And I'm not seeing, personally, I'd love to see a leachate line, honestly, I would. But it's kind of convoluted in the way we're selling it that bothers me. I understand that we could save money, but at this particular point in time, we don't know what we're doing with Clean Lane, and that's a big red flag to me question. And if we do nothing, Waga still installs their line, and we get the gas extraction we're contractually hoping for off Clean Lane,
Yes.
or off Short Mountain, rather, excuse me.
Yes,
So,
you can reject both of the next orders, and WAGA will install a 2-inch line, and we won't deal with the leachate line at all. I just thought it would be a good idea to present this opportunity to the board so we could get the leachate line done now rather than later at an expense that is less than what we estimate it would cost us if we did it on our own.
oh, I understand entirely, and I'm all for saving money, and I'm all for doing things efficiently. I'm just wondering if this is the timing on this, and does this decision then drive more the decision of putting in siding Clean Lane at Short Mountain at whatever extra expenses that's going to cost? Because that's another item we're going to talk about in a minute about how much more expensive that's going to be to site there. So I'm concerned with the public's money that we're ratcheting up here, and I just need to be okay with moving forward. And like I said before, 100% support of the leachate line. We should have done that, like Commissioner Farr said, 10 years ago. So that's what's dragging me this direction, but I'm not seeing that this is like a half off of shoes kind of sale here. I'm seeing this is just a little bit of movement that forces maybe another decision that we're not prepared to make, and that's reciting Clean Lane to Short Mountain. So those are my concerns. I'm not certain how I stand on this issue right now, but I certainly don't want to vote against it and vote against a leachate line if, in fact, we can put it in there and use it and actually save actual money and not be playing with the numbers. Mr. Mokrajewski, you got a comment.
Thank you, Chair. Let me try to take another run at this. I think it can get a little convoluted. It's actually not that complicated. If you, 2 years ago, and we've long talked about a leachate line to reduce the trucking, right? So you heard the $500,000 per year savings by not having to truck the leachate. You don't have to do this, I think, as the county council has said, is we simply have the option, given the fact there's going to be an open ditch, to lay the leachate line in the ground. That will save us $500,000 a year. If we did it on our own outside of this project, 2 years ago, it would have cost $6 million. So the 5.3, we get the gas line and the leachate line for approximately $700,000 less than just the leachate line itself. And we save $500,000 per year, which pays off the investment in 10 years. So that's really the question in front of the board. You don't have to do it, but if you approve this, you're getting what we've long talked about wanting to do for less than it cost a couple years ago. And again, it pays off within a 10-year period of time because of the $500,000 operating savings. And then you continue that savings after that leachate line is going to continue. Right. Fuel costs continue to increase, all the costs. So, you think about the long-term savings that are generated from that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I just don't want to also sell Crestwell false hope that we're going to connect them to a leachate line if we put this in the ground, because that's another expense that we haven't talked about, because that's another section that has to be done with some governmental agreement or something. Is that correct? I mean, just because we put a leachate line in this hole doesn't mean Crestwell is going to be able to build tomorrow, right?
Correct, Chair. We have to get through the land use items, the Metro Plan amendment, and then a financing plan. and-
Okay.
and there's
This is a
still
step
quite
in the
bit of work to
positive
be done.
direction. Gotcha. All right. Any other discussion? Commissioner Buck, do you have a question or comment?
My comment really was, I obviously want every commissioner to be able to have all their questions answered in order to move forward. But what's being presented in this board order is a financial no-brainer. How many years have we been trucking leachate and the cost to the county all these decades? And we know that that cost only increases over time. And so this fundamentally is going to save taxpayer money. It's also going to be able to advance opportunities for our rural communities to eventually hook up. And it has good environmental impacts. So it's a clear win-win-win. I think we should just be able to move forward with this order.
Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair. The only thing I wanted to mention is we brought up Cresswell and the ultimate desire for them to hook into MWMC. Commissioner Buck and I were at the meeting with you, Dan, yesterday. The ongoing meetings, there are a lot of questions to be answered yet on Cresswell. One of them is, how do you dig a ditch? Well, if somehow this became part of the same ditch, I don't know if it possibly can be, that'd be a wonderful supplement or addition. But in the meantime, those discussions are ongoing, a lot of questions, and it's expanded beyond Cresswell at this point. Junction City is also interested in hooking into MWMC. The regional nature of MWMC is an asset that we all share, both municipalities and the county, and that's something that we'll be talking about extensively, probably for years to come.
All right. Any further discussion? I'll be looking for a motion. Do you have some more? Or
I didn't know if Vice Chair wanted to make the motion.
I would, yeah. On B1, yes. I move to approve Order 25-12-16-11 in the matter of approving an expenditure to fund the installation of a larger gas pipeline to Short Mountain.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Trieger to move approval of proposed order entitling the matter of approving expenditure to fund the installation of a larger gas pipeline, Short Mountain, not to exceed $3.9 million. Is there any discussion of the motion? Vice Chair.
Just real quick, this is because, for me, the cost savings and using Northwest Natural to get that leachate pipeline in, I think we all understand how important that line is for Short Mountain and possibly Cresswell in the near future. So this is an important item.
See no further discussion. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much for allowing me my questions, Chair, or colleagues. Appreciate that. Let's move on to our 8B2 item, or Order 25-12-1612, in the matter of approving a contract amendment to facilitate the possible siting of Clean Lane facility at Short Mountain Landfill. And Mr. Bovet, please go ahead, sir.
Thank you again, Chair. I don't really have much to add beyond what I presented to the board last week. I basically run into a virtual wall where I can't explore the potential of moving Clean Lane to Short Mountain any further without engineering. All the lights so far are green, and we're kind of at an inflection point. Do we want to continue to explore and pursue shifting to Short Mountain or not? And that's what this order really is about. Happy to answer any questions you might have, and again, defer any budget questions you might have to the Public Works Director.
The board, any questions for Mr. Bovet or Mr. Hurley? Wow, okay. I have a few questions. Still about Clean Lane. Have we, once again, I'm uncomfortable with moving forward with this matter because we still have uncertainty. We have not heard back from LUBA on our LUBA appeal from our Goshen property at Clean Lane. And we suspect that's coming soon, or do we know?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We expect a decision literally by Christmas Eve, so something by next Wednesday. That's the straight answer to that. I almost don't want to comment further unless you require me to, 'cause it's pending litigation, but I think it's fair to say that whatever LUBA decides will likely be appealed.
I've got a few questions from my constituents, so bear with me. They're asking some of the same questions I have. Have we determined that the waste flow is sufficient to even make this project viable? That's one of the questions I had fielded to me.
I'll defer all those questions to the Public Works Director or the county administrator, as you might suspect.
I mean, we still haven't figured that out yet, have we, Mr. Hurley?
Chair, it's complicated. You know, we estimated the project at a higher tonnage, and so the payback over time was estimated on a figure that is now significantly less with the waste exportation going out of Springfield. Right now, we estimate that there's just about enough tonnage with the existing waste to meet our minimum threshold, was 120,000 tons. But we have other budgetary issues, as we discussed recently, with the loss of tonnage down to the Dry Creek landfill by Waste Connections. So we're not able to build reserves as we anticipated for future development of the landfill. So that's an issue we will need to take up with the board of how we either increase revenues or decrease expenses, or if we can resolve this issue of waste exportation. But currently, we're estimating that we can meet the minimum tonnage.
And if we don't meet the minimum tonnage, our contract says that we pay $12,000 a day if we don't meet that tonnage. Is that correct still or not?
That relates to a delay on construction.
Delay on construction, okay?
There's a fixed cost for the operations of the facility. So we're essentially getting the value of 120,000 tons processed, and we're paying for that. So anything that we deliver under that, we're still paying for that amount. We're just not receiving the processing for it. And I would say, I would also just, to the question, Chair, say, again, as we talked about last week, this was happening 26 years ago in 1999, where haulers were hauling waste out of county, in this case, north, to Coffin Butte. And the Board of Commissioners and city councils across the community came together and said, this is a problem. We don't think that actually waste being hauled out of our county and our inability then to maintain a system, a community system of waste management is going to work. We need to fix this problem. And they fixed it by implementing a fee that now is being collected. So we got to get that issue wrapped up, because the community agreed 26 years ago, and I think the community agrees today, that there is a public concern with our ability to manage waste in the community if we don't have, if we're not collecting the revenue that is needed for that. So there's a broader issue here at play, and as the board knows from our conversation last week, we're actively working with that one particular company, Waste Connections Incorporated, and we have work to do there, and it's going to take a little bit of work on that front, but we remain optimistic that we'll be able to get that in place and have the tonnage necessary to make the project viable.
Vice Chair.
You said something there, Mr. Mokrahysky, that I hadn't heard yet. So we're just we're liable for tonnage under 120,000 a month?
We're paying for the processing of 120,000.
How much do we pay a ton?
Oh, I would have to look in the contract.
that answer.
I can get that back. I can send that out to the board, Vice Chair.
So every ton that doesn't go under that, there's can you get close?
What do you get close? What do you mean?
There are two components of there's a pass-through cost, and then there's a operations cost. I want to say about 60.
I don't want to speculate on the, I don't want to speculate on what that is, but we certainly can get that number.
Okay. So then, we'll be liable for whatever that nominal fee is, or not nominal, but whatever that fee is per ton under the 120K. So right now, we're at the 120K threshold, you think?
Right about at that, Vice Chair.
And the other thing I wanted to, sorry, Commissioner, you may have, so I don't want to cut you off.
No, it's fine. I thought we were below the 120K threshold, so that was my question. But
yeah, and I just, we're sort of getting into the weeds on this issue. There's the tonnage that, is currently coming, and we'll see what happens. We've seen flow, over the years go up and down. There's also alternative options that we have for hauling waste from transfer station, from Glenwood, for example, to the facility to increase tonnage that way. There's also importation of waste, so we've had conversation with our surrounding counties in terms of the ability to provide a service to them as they look at, the questions about the expansion of Coffin Butte and their desires also to meet climate goals and state recycling goals, which is part of what has driven this project. So there's opportunity, certainly we want to focus on the flow that we have here locally. That's our primary desire because we think our public benefits from that, but we also have alternative options to look at increasing flow.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get into the weeds too far on this either, I agree, but I think I'm just going to state that I'm not in support of this order, and I still have a lot of questions about Clean Lane. For one, I don't think we have enough garbage to feed this thing. So if we fall under that number, we're going to be liable for that every month for as long as we're in contract. And another part is this doesn't do anything for our rural constituents at our transfer stations. The transfer station garbage is still not going through this. The people that need help recycling the most are not benefiting from this IMRF. So I'm still 100% opposed to this IMRF.
Thank you. Do we have any idea how much total we've spent in trying to relocate and reconfigure and litigate the Clean Lane project since we've been battling the Goshen project? And I do want to get in the weeds on this. I'm sorry, because my constituents are asking me to get in the weeds on this.
We can get back to you on that. I mean, that's not the item in front of you specifically.
Well, it is, Mr. Murkowski. I disagree. We're asking the board to spend more money on trying to relocate the Clean Lane project to another site before the site that we originally cited it has not gone through the proper channels and we haven't got an answer on yet. So I think, yeah, this could be a potentially big issue, chasing good money after bad, as it would.
My point is you asked for numbers on what has been expended today. Happy to report on that. Just don't have it right in front of us.
Do we have we taken any money against our $35 million bond at this point?
No.
Okay. All right, well, Commissioner Farr, please.
Thanks. I just have a couple of, may seem like naive questions, but I want to hear the answers to these, and I think I know the answers. We have a shortage of trash, Lane County trash going to Short Mountain, so we're thinking about importing trash. So currently, let me get this straight, all of Springfield's garbage is being taken to Jackson County.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Being hauled 2.5 hours each way for the truck.
That's correct.
To Jackson County. All of Springfield's garbage, which is generated in Lane County, is bypassing Goshen and going to Jackson County, crossing 3 county lines to do that. Anybody talk to the people of Jackson County, how they feel about that? Anyway, that's a rhetorical question. So that's the reason we don't have enough trash. That's the reason we're not meeting our projections, is because everybody puts a banana peel in the garbage can, which should go someplace else in Springfield. It gets hauled on a truck bed across 3 county lines, 2.5 hours each way to Jackson County. Is that happening?
That's correct, Commissioner.
And the people of Springfield, their trash is going, okay. Wow, that is a big deal. Thank you.
And there would be no question about the viability of the project if that was not the case. Mm-hmm. So that's why we talked about this last week, and for commissioners that are concerned about this issue, we want everyone focused on the issue of the waste exportation. That is a broad community problem beyond just the particular project that's being discussed here. And so that is, in my strong opinion, the place that we need to be focusing our energy. And if we focus our energy there and we address that issue of waste exportation, we don't have a problem with the viability of the project.
Commissioner Trieger.
Thank you, Chair. The item before us is to create more options and possibility. It is not a commitment. It is not a decision. It's to keep as many doors open as possible in service to what's in the best interest of the public and this organization, our obligations as the waste management entity as dictated to us by the state of Oregon. Correct?
That's correct.
So it is clear there are some of my colleagues who will not be supportive of this project, regardless of location, regardless of a business plan that is presented, and so on. But the order in front of us is really, in fact, a very responsible order because it keeps more options open to continue the forward momentum on a board-approved project. And so I am fully supportive of this, particularly in light of the opportunities that it creates that we've talked about in the previous order. And so when the chair is ready, I am prepared to make a motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Senega.
Yeah, but trash was being hauled out from Springfield before we signed this contract, before this contract was brought to us. So I just want to leave it with that we should have known about this problem before we got to this point.
If the hauling company would have told us, yeah, that would have been helpful, but the data did not indicate that to be the case. Because if you look at the data up until the last year, the tonnage is flat. And it's not until the last year that we've seen a significant ramp up of exportation of waste, and you can see the total tonnage decline from the two companies owned by Waste Connections Incorporated. And that's the problem. So again, I'll just be a broken record here and say, that's the problem we need to fix. And so the concerns being expressed today will be resolved if we fix that problem.
Prepared for a motion, Chair?
I'm not. I've got some more questions. Thank you. Capitalism is what's cheaper. That's how it works, and Springfield apparently has found it cheaper to haul in a truck across 3 county lines their waste, and they've done so for a good portion of time as we've been going through this decision. Sanapak sent us, the county, in 2022, a letter when they bought that landfill in Jackson County. We knew they bought the landfill. We knew they were going to be changing something. And so I just want the public to know that there's been some red flags business-wise in this whole chain of events that I feel maybe we should have looked at a little harder. And I want to just, before I'm ready for a motion, I want to say this project continues to frustrate me. It's clear by our waste flow and the rising cost of this project is not affordable, and it's not clearly in the best interest to the taxpayers or the ratepayers. And I don't think it's a clear interest of my constituents in Springfield. I don't think they don't support this. The original goal of cutting 10% waste volume coming into Short Mountain has been achieved by market reductions in a few municipalities that are disposing elsewhere at competitive rates. $78 a ton we're being charged, just for that, in case you want to know that figure. That's what it is. It's $78 a ton. I'm most concerned about our approaches to my district with the city of Springfield for the preliminary tactics that we're speaking about how to recover this waste and what the county believes is back-owed system development fees. It concerns me because the black eye that we gave my fair city and the mayor and my city council on the supersiding the stabilization center, that the current conversations would appear to be another strong-arm legal tactic to get Springfield to comply with their decisions where to dump their waste for best customer benefit. Further, I'm adamantly opposed to how the contract drifted from shared liability as a public-private partnership to where now we find ourselves as a county on the hook for all of the $74 million costs whether this project gets built or not. How was that a partnership? And why weren't those key changes brought back to the board after the 3-2 vote authorized by our county administrator to sign a draft contract? I shudder knowing this would never happen in private business, a draft contract, a moving target that never has been leveraged or tested or vetted, especially when risking taxpayer dollars of $174 million, including us taking on all of the liability. Based on all the costs and numbers and fines we're now locked into, I can't see how this project isn't going to cost us at least $3.7 to $5 million more on top of our debt service per year. I want the public to understand, I made a motion for this to be on the ballot before any contracts were signed, and it was rejected by this board. This should have been weighed by our constituents, not justified by what I believe are telling numbers that have always indicated this is not in the best financial interest of the county. We have hindered development in Cresswell because we took our eyes off the ball. we should have been laying a leachate line as our priority. Instead of this, we've now diminished their economic potential for development that was inherently more valuable on the long term and more practical. I'm ready for a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I move approval of Order 25-12-16-12 in the matter of approving of a contract amendment to facilitate the possible siting of the Clean Lane facility at Short Mountain Landfill.
And a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Trieger to approve the proposed order entitled "The Matter of Approving a Contract Amendment to Facilitate the Possible Siting of the Clean Lane Facility at Short Mountain not to exceed $1.3 million," and seconded by Commissioner Buck. Is there any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 Those
Aye.
opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Motion passes 3-2. Thank you very much. Appreciate your patience with us asking the questions, both of you, Mr. Bovet and Mr. Hurley. Thank you very much, and Mr. Mokryski. We do have an 11 a.m. time certain with Mr. Blomé. We're just a tad early on that. Oh, I see him in the audience. There you are. Jay, you ready? Or do we have to wait for a time certain? Our procedure? Okay, well then let's move on to something else then. Let's just do our announcements. Mr. Mokryski, you got 15 full minutes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to provide the board an update on the Property Value Appeals Board. The Lane County Property Value Appeals Board exists to provide property owners in Lane County with a formal process to appeal the real market value of their property as listed on their current property tax statement. This board operates under Oregon law and does not hear appeals related to the amount of property taxes billed, only the real market value assigned to the property. The members of the four-person board are appointed by the Lane County Board of Commissioners and serve a 2-year term. Board members must be a resident of Lane County, cannot be employed by Lane County or any other taxing district within the county, and should have a background in real property appraisal, finance, or real estate. If a property owner believes that the real market value on their property tax statement is incorrect, or they want to appeal the valuation, they may file a petition with the Property Value Appeals Board during the appeal window and provide evidence to support a lower value. The petition filing period is currently open. Petitions may be filed with the county clerk or postmarked by December 31st, 2025. Petitions submitted after this statutory deadline cannot be accepted. The fee to appeal is $35 per account. Board hearings begin in early February and typically conclude by April 15th. For more information, you can visit Lane County Clerk's website at lanecountyor.gov/clerk and click the Property Value Appeals Board link. So we don't often talk about the Property Value Appeals Board, and wanted to provide that update for you. The other thing I thought I would share is this Friday, I will be in Florence. We have a group of us, the sheriff, our emergency manager, our policy director, our public works director will be in Florence meeting with the Florence city manager and assistant city manager and their staff, talking about emergency management and response efforts on the coast, particularly related to Cascadia. Oftentimes we're talking about emergency management and response efforts related to wildfire, flooding events, and on the coast, of course, the primary focus and concern is Cascadia. So we're going to have a 2-hour session there with our partners in Florence, focused on that issue. This afternoon, of course, commissioners and staff, our executive team will be here in Harris Hall to talk about the 2026-2027 budget. So tune in if you're interested in hearing that conversation, and look forward to moving forward in that process. That's all I have, Chair, unless you have questions for me.
Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Mokryski. Appreciate that. We could also move on to our commissioners' business. Is there any announcements by our commissioners? Commissioner Trieger.
Thank you, Chair. I had the pleasure and honor of being one of 3 panelists at the City Club, which was live on Friday and aired last night on KLCC, about the Lane Event Center planning and where we are in the process and what the opportunities are before us. I was joined by a representative from the Jefferson Westside Neighbors Group, Ted Koopman, and our able Lane Event Center manager, Corey Buller. Audience had really great questions. It was a good conversation. And the amount of interest just shows me how much people are really excited and interested in the opportunities that we have to make investments in that really important property that Lane County owns. And I could see a lot of heads nodding when Corey was sharing, particularly about how the Elaine Event Center is essentially a business operated by the county for the public good, and all the events that happen there and the ways that it is really an economic engine as well as a community gathering place and a critical component of our emergency response system, speaking of which, as the county administrator was just talking about. So it was a great program, and I just am really grateful to the City Club for reaching out to the county and asking us to share a little bit about where we are in that process and what's to come. So thank you, Chair.
Good, thank you. Yes, Commissioner Buck.
I just wanted to thank the governor for coming down last week, Wednesday afternoon after a board meeting. I went up to Blue River where we had a wonderful ribbon cutting event. She spent a whole extra hour over lunch to speak with all the community members. And it is rare to be able to get that audience with the governor. And she had some really wonderful statements and connected with residents up there. So a huge thanks for that, and to all the community members that made that project happen. There is an additional project that they are working on next, and I can't wait to see more housing upriver.
Awesome. Congratulations. Good job. Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair. I have three things. One is just a discussion of Association of Oregon Counties Local Government Advisory Committee. We're in conjunction with this, with the Oregon Health Authority. We met last week. It was a momentous meeting. It included the Director of Oregon Health Authority, Sejal Hathi, and it was a broad discussion talking about the partnership between counties and the state and helping to solidify that. LGAC is not a president of AOC appointed committee. It's a separate committee that operates with a very specific membership in the committee, which includes a number of county commissioners, but also includes practitioners, operatives, and some lived experience individuals from around the state. We represent all 36 counties. I wanted to say at the last meeting, one thing of note is that Maria Cortez from Lane County made a wonderful presentation. Maria is the Senior Program Service Coordinator for our health and housing, our health and housing initiatives here at Lane County. She works over on our Lawrence Street building, I guess we'd call that. Maria gave a superb presentation on the evolution and the current operation of MLK Commons. And it was well received, and I saw people taking a lot of notes as to how we happen to once again evolve MLK Commons. Another person who was at the meeting was the director of OHCS, Oregon Housing Community Services. Director Bell was there, who was here at the opening of the NEL, which is an associate project to MLK Commons. Both are permanent supportive housing. And Director Bell has a really good feeling for how we are doing in Lane County, and she projected that very well during the meeting. Just wanted to point out that the things that we are doing in Lane County are recognized throughout the state as being cutting edge, whether it's in health and human services, whether it's in solid waste disposal, whether it's been liquid waste disposal. Lane County is looked at as a leader, and that's very evident every time I sit in that LGAC meeting. Two other things I'd like to point out. Here in Lane County, we have lots of fun things to do. I talked about the leachate line. That's a fun thing to do this coming Saturday at hosting a college football playoff game. But also, just a few steps from where we are, there's a place called Actors Cabaret of Eugene. It's a small dinner theater venue. It's been around for a long, long time. Joe Zingo and Jim Roberts own and operate that. It's been around. They've been working together for more than 50 years. My wife Debbie happens to do some plays there, but I went there this weekend, and Gypsy was in performance. Gypsy is we've seen the old Natalie Wood movie, and the wonderful music from Gypsy. Well, in the play Gypsy, Gypsy Rose Lee, who is the play is named after more or less. Her far more talented younger sister is June, sometimes called Baby June when she was younger, sometimes called Dainty June. But Dainty June, once again far more talented than Gypsy Rose Lee, was played by Molly Mokraheisky on Saturday. And I've got to tell you out loud, what a wonderful performance. She commands the stage, Steve. I enjoyed it very much.
Wonderful announcement. I'm wondering if the other one who was not so talented took more talent to be not so talented to be that way on stage.
Well, you know, you go see it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you any more. Go
Way to
see
sell the classics to the millennials, Commissioner. Good job. Is there any commissioner comments from this morning's public comments? Yes, Commissioner Trieger,
I
please.
just want to appreciate our administrator being so responsive. I noticed him immediately checking in with the fellow who gave public comment, and I see an email follow-up already on the land use application. So just thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Good work. Thank you again. Any committee reports that we need to hear about? Seeing none, how about a future board assignment? Anybody got one in their pocket? Well, Merry Christmas to Mr. Mokraheisky. Good deal. I see that. All right, so there's no need to review that. So we have a time certain item in 6 minutes, and we are at the end of our scheduled agenda. So we either recess for 6 minutes or we play some elevator music. I will recess this meeting for 6 minutes, and we'll rejoin at 11 a.m. time certain. We are recessed.
Did you know, Pat, my mother?
Recess to the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. It is Tuesday, December 16th, and the time's 11 a.m. We have a time certain for a public hearing, Order 25121613, excuse me, in the matter of surrender of Gillum Road, County Road Number 2283 to the City of Eugene with a public hearing. This public hearing is held pursuant to ORS 373.270 to allow for public testimony prior to the Board of Commissioners' action of approving or denying the City of Eugene's request to obtain jurisdiction of Gillum Road. If approved, the board can adopt a final order to surrender Gillum Road to the City of Eugene. I'll now call for any board member or to give any ex parte context and for absenteeisms due to conflicts of interest or ex parte context or biases. And I'll call it for my left to right. Is there any board for any ex parte context? Commissioner Buck?
None.
Commissioner Farr?
I have none.
Commissioner Trieger?
None.
Vice Chair?
None.
And I have none. Commissioner Lovall. And I'd like to formally open the public hearing. And as I've opened the public hearing, we'll now hear from Mr. Jay Blavet, our county surveyor on the item. Go ahead, Jay.
Good morning, Chair Lovall and Commissioners. I'm here in the matter of the surrender of a portion of Gillum Road, County Road Number 2283 to the City of Eugene. The city has requested jurisdiction of Gillum Road pursuant to City Resolution 5456 dated September 22nd, 2025. And it's attached as Exhibit C to the agenda item material that's been provided to you. ORS 373 provides for the transfer from county jurisdiction to city jurisdiction of county roads within the corporate limits of a city whenever the county governing body deems it necessary, expedient, or for the best interest of the county to do so. And the governing body of the city deems it necessary or expedient and for the best interest of the city to acquire jurisdiction over the county road. The board approved today's public hearing on November 18th, 2025, pursuant to Order 2511-1808. ORS 373 does require this public hearing for road surrenders to allow testimony to be entered into the public record prior to decision by the board. Public notice of this matter has been posted along Gillum Road. That was posted on November 21st, 2025, meeting all the statutory requirements for notice of a public hearing per ORS Chapter 368. The portion of Gillum Road proposed today for surrender lies between Ayers Road and extends approximately a quarter-mile northerly to Don Juan Avenue, which is, it's a variable width right-of-way. The portion of Gillum Road proposed to be surrendered is currently being improved under a Lane County contract with urban upgrades, including curbs, sidewalks, stormwater treatment, and bike lanes. The project is scheduled to be substantially completed by the end of this year, with project closeout occurring soon after. Lane County will fulfill its contractual obligation to the contract's conclusion. with the city assuming all other routine, non-construction maintenance activities and permitting. This concludes my presentation. I'll turn this matter back over to you for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jay. We'll now open the public testimony portion of this public hearing. Is there anyone here in Harris Hall wishing to give public testimony on this item? Seeing none. Jessica, is anybody online wishing to give public testimony on this?
We do not have anyone joining us online.
All right, thank you very much. We'll now close that public hearing, or the hearing portion of this. And is there any discussion by the board that wants to ask Mr. Blumay some questions or any comments? Yes, Commissioner Farr.
No questions, just this has been a long process, and it's ongoing even post what happens with this short stretch of Gillum. The people who live in, on and around Gillum, Northeast Neighbors, the Northeast Neighborhood Association, some live inside the county, some live outside the county. There's always been a contention surrounding the safety of kids walking, for instance, to Gillum Elementary School from points up north to Ayers Road, to Jacobs and beyond that, to Don Juan and beyond that. So there's a good step in the right direction. It's, once again, a slow process. People wish it could have been the snap of the fingers or the throw of the switch, but here we are today, and it's the next step along the way. So good job getting it done. Of course, a strong affirmative on this one.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Vice Chair.
Yeah, and the reason it's a slow process is it looks great out there. That new sidewalk and stuff, they did a really good job, and that's going to really complete that road. So good job to everybody.
All right, well done. Does that save us money so we can move that money to LA? I'm kidding. No, forget it. I'm looking for a motion on this item.
Yes, Chair, I move to approve Order 25-12-16-13 in the matter of the surrender of Gillum Road, County Road number 2283 to the City of Eugene with a public hearing.
I would love to second that.
All right, welcome. Thank you very much, Vice Chair and Commissioner Farr for the second. We've got a motion on the floor to approve Order 25121613 to the surrender of Gillum Road, Road number 2283 to the City of Eugene. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Well done. Well done. Thank you very much, Jay. Appreciate your time very much. We have need for executive session, and I have that paper right here. Before we resume, our executive session will start at 11:30 sharp in the Board of County Commissioners room, and then we will meet back here at 1:30 for our Budget 26-27 work session. Right now, the Board of County Commissioners will now meet in one executive session. This session is to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations and is held pursuant to ORS 192.6602D, which allows the Board of Commissioners to meet in executive session for the purposes listed. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are precluded from attending. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. Members of the news media are not allowed to tape, video record, or otherwise record in executive session, and verbatim notes are prohibited. No decision may be made in executive session. We will recess, and we'll meet back here in Harris Hall at 1:30 for our afternoon session. We are recessed.